Here's today's top story. Pixel 11's gimped Tensor G6 will mean another year that Google takes a beating from Samsung and Apple in the US market. After almost 6 generations of Tensor chipset launches, Google still hasn't figured out that its custom silicon is one of the biggest selling points of a smartphone. We thought that by switching to TSMC, the Tensor G5 could finally be rid of the performance curse that plagued past SoC releases, but we couldn't have been more wrong. Looking at the company's Q1 2026 statistics, its US smartphone market share could continue to dwindle if it ignores this specific aspect of its devices. Then again, Google can also capitalize on other areas, assuming it wants the Pixel 11 family to remain 1 or 2 generations behind once again. Google's US smartphone market share isn't improving, but overcoming this obstacle shouldn't be difficult based on Omdia's data. The Pixel lineup shipped 800,000 units in Q1 2026, down from 900,000 units it accumulated in Q1 2025. In total, Google accounts for just 3% of the market, while Apple and Samsung make up the remainder. Not taking advantage of the world's largest smartphone market by revenue, especially when there are only a handful of brands, means that something is off. The best way to look at this is the current pricing. At $300 off on Amazon for the 512GB version, the Pixel 10 Pro XL is still an expensive purchase at $1,019, whereas the base Galaxy S26 Ultra with 256GB storage can be had for $1,049.99, offering superior hardware, increased battery life, an additional S Pen, and so much more, for just $31 extra. Clearly, the value proposition isn't there for Google's smartphones. To make matters worse, with DRAM prices showing no signs of slowing down, it'll be tougher for the Pixel 11 family to stand its ground once it's announced later this year. So what exactly can be done to remedy this? With the Snapdragon 8 Elite Gen 6 Pro and A20 Pro expected to showcase TSMC's latest 2nm process, not to mention the latest and greatest in architectural changes, Google has a golden opportunity to put its Tensor G6 in the spotlight. Sadly, with its GPU said to be 5 years old, it's clear Google wants history to repeat itself, with the Pixel 11 series likely to be stamped with a premium starting price while offering none of the upgrades that competing SoC makers offer. If Google purposely wants to gimp the Tensor G6, where does its strength lie? The Pixel 11 is for the everyday user that doesn't care about raw performance or breaking benchmark records, but wants a reliable daily driver. Assuming the price is right, Google's Sania Jabanputra mentioned almost 2 years ago that the Tensor SoC was never designed to break any benchmark records, but it was meant to cater to the user experience. With the Tensor G6 expected to be slower than its rivals, we don't see how exactly Google is favoring consumers. Thankfully, an underpowered silicon plays well with the technology giant's product lineup, as the stock version of Android is less resource-hungry on the CPU and GPU. The Pixel 11 will also be the first to receive Google's software and security updates, but nailing the starting price and ironing out the bugs should be the company's first priority. Visit the myriad number of problems that users have mentioned on Reddit, and you'll realize that, with the exception of the Tensor SoC, Google nails the hardware aspect of its smartphones, but fails to push out timely software solutions, destroying the experience. Also, with the base iPhone 17 available for $799 in the US, introducing the Pixel 11 at $799 won't improve Google's position, but a lower starting price and some decent promotions could get the ball rolling. We'll reiterate that just because the Tensor G6 is slower than the rest of the pack doesn't mean it has to be its defining feature. Remember, the mass consumer isn't focused on deep diving into chip technology or nitpicking its pros and cons. They just want something that works right out of the box, without having to search Google incessantly for solutions. At the end of the day, the Pixel 11 family needs to be reliable and affordable, not necessarily powerful. Follow WuckTech on Google to get more of our news coverage in your feeds. That's it for today. Don't forget to like and subscribe.